Last week, LeBron James chose the Philadelphia 76ers. Today, his agent, Rich Paul, on his podcast, Mind the Game with Max Kellerman, they had Shams on, and we got a couple tidbits of information that we were unaware of previously. So interesting that our own Jason Lloyd shared 3 different clips to the group chat this morning. We're going to discuss all of those.
Two.
You did?
Those 2.
Oh, 2, whatever. 2, 3, a few, a couple.
Numbers are hard.
Don't let facts get in the way.
Listen, a bucket is either 2 or 3 points if you don't specify which bucket it is. Regardless, this one particular clip that Jason sent from the podcast, Mind the Game, Max Kellerman, Rich Paul, caught our attention. We're going to react to it. Let's take a listen.
Now, you tell me, Rich, if I'm right or wrong. Is it the Cavs front office group, Kobe Altman, Brandon Weems, the Gilbert family, Grant Gilbert?
Okay. What are you referring to? What happened?
Meeting with LeBron in Akron in early July. Is that the loaf of bread you're talking about?
Early July? Wait a minute. How did you know about that?
I couldn't say,
So you thought this got by
say.
Shams, but he has all the details.
I thought it got by Shams because
like,
he never said anything to me about that. Nobody knew about that. That did not get out nowhere. Nobody knew about that.
Why was this not reportable?
Time.
Why did you not report it?
So in real time, the integrity aspect matters more than anything because this was information I was told by multiple people on background, off the record. This was something that ethically I couldn't report because, one, it wasn't told to me in a way that I was able to have reporter go double check and triple check. It was told to me off the record.
If someone says, "Hey, I can tell you on background, but this is off the record," and you agree to that, then you can't burn them.
And I report that. That's
journalistically
and
unethical.
As we spoke about earlier on this show, like for me, responsibility is important. Being upfront is important. Ethically doing the job the right way. My job is to tell the truth, but also if it's off the record and it's being told like this isn't reportable,
but if you talk about
I did that, you're burning the source. And the other side of it is also this is, the history of LeBron in Cleveland, and what he means to that organization, and something like that. And that's probably why it was told to me off the record, right? Because if that were, something that got out, I do think in real time it does lead on a little bit.
It's the Game Over podcast, not Mind the Game. Mind the Game's LeBron's podcast. Game Over is Rich Paul and Max Kellerman. Jason, what'd you make, though, of what Shams had to say on the Game Over podcast with Rich Paul and Max Kellerman, particularly in regards to LeBron meeting with the Cavs front office in July in Akron?
First of all, the whole podcast is fascinating. I don't normally plug podcasts. I'm not usually a big podcast guy. If you want like an inside peek, I'm a nerd. Obviously, I like this stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to see how some of the sausage is made, I would highly recommend this. It's really well done with Shams on, and it's pretty revealing in terms of like the whole process and how this whole thing played out. So I would go check out the entire podcast that just dropped this morning. In terms of that clip, it's interesting. Eventually it'll all come out, right? Like it'll come out on what the Cavs felt like if they felt like they were being led in a certain direction or they weren't. The only thing I can take from that clip, in 2014 when LeBron came back, Dan had to make amends with him, right? They had to clean up the letter and him departing from Miami and all that. So Dan flies to Miami to meet with LeBron, and Dan's understanding is it's one-on-one. It's going to be Dan and LeBron, and it wound up being Dan and LeBron and about 6 of LeBron's other people. So Dan was walking into a mismatch.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And they cleared the air and they made amends. But at no point did Dan have a lean one way or the other of which way LeBron was going. It's strictly a guess. My guess is this was similar and that the Cavs had a meeting with him. Not that they had to clear the air on anything this time, but my guess is they left probably with no inclination one way or the other of which way LeBron was headed. Now, did they make their own inferences off of that? I don't know. It's certainly that conversation had to shape the way that they approach the rest of their offseason, you would assume. But I can just go back, like I said, the last time when this happened and there was a meeting and the Cavs, Dan left knowing that the relationship was patched, didn't know if LeBron was coming or not. Cavs were under instruction. You have to get to max space to have a shot at him, and that's why they made some of the trade. We've talked about that before. They made some of the deals that they made, not knowing if he was coming back or not, and that didn't happen this time because there was no need to. Like everyone was under the understanding it's not about money. So it's just it's certainly interesting that this conversation took place. I don't think certainly I didn't know about it. I don't think like whether or not like the part of it. I have a hard time believing that Shams knew that and didn't call Rich and say, you know what I mean? Like I think there's a little bit of theatrics going on there with that.
Yeah, right.
But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's really interesting, and I think I'm just curious. I'd want to know how the Cavs left that meeting and what they thought their chances were coming out of that meeting. Because you could say again, I said this the other day. You say whatever you want now. If you're the Cavs, you can say, well, we never thought he was serious about coming back here. LeBron can say, oh, the Cavs are number 2 on my list. It doesn't matter. If you don't win, it doesn't matter where you finish in something like this. So, but some of the little details about like what was said between LeBron and the Cavs, and I'd be interested to know. And eventually it'll all come out.
Do you think LeBron said, "Hey, this is what I'd like you to do," or do you think is he not likely to have done something?
I don't think he would have done that.
So then,
if he tells them,
yeah,
you go get AD and I'll come back, they probably would have. I shouldn't say probably. That's probably something that they look into or take seriously. But again, I've been pretty consistent on this. I am not tearing apart my roster for a 41-year-old.
Okay, so then how are we going to blame the Cavs for this?
I don't blame the Cavs. This is why I said the day after that the move. I don't blame the Cavs for not tearing apart their roster for not to trying to appease a 41-year-old.
Yeah.
But I do think, like the Jaylen Brown thing, I've had that circled all summer as a missed opportunity to improve the roster with somebody who was out there. And you're not. I mean, the bonus may have been you get LeBron back, but the more important thing is you're trying to win a championship and Jaylen Brown's available.
They should have. But I don't blame them, even though I'm not a Mobley guy and I'd rather have Brown. I don't blame them for not trading Mobley for Brown because look what they gave up for Brown was not much.
But so what? I see. That's what Joe and I had that conversation.
Okay.
Varden was on your side. He said, "Why should they give up Mobley? Nobody else did." I'm like, "Well, it's not like Boston gave him away for free. Draft picks are getting more valuable than they've ever been, and I agree. Like it was pennies on the dollar for what they did get. But if he helps." If he helps you and makes you better, it doesn't matter what everyone else is buying.
Well, that's true.
It's the whole concept of it only takes one, right? It only takes one team.
Right.
And if he helps your team and he helps this team more than and listen, nobody's defended Mobley more than I have, except Mike. Mike and I have been
we're in lockstep that we would have made that deal.
And I'd have made the deal.
I'd rather have Jaylen Brown than Evan Mobley.
And I would too.
Do you think it's just a guess, obviously.
Yeah.
You don't know. If the Cavs had traded Mobley for Jaylen Brown, do you think LeBron would be here?
Yeah.
I do too. And it came out in that same podcast. Rich Paul said, we weren't considering Philadelphia until they acquired Jaylen Brown.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean A plus B equals
I think
C, but you certainly are leading the horse in the direction of water.
The Cavs didn't intentionally put him in this spot.
The Cavs didn't.
It's just the way that this has evolved. And the one thing that I would kind of push back, we talked about this before. The one thing I'd push back, like, Rich has said if they had Darius.
That's ridiculous. I was ripping them for that.
Yeah, and we talked. But the other thing that I saw that was floated the
Donovan Mitchell stuff.
I don't think Boston does that trade. Why would Boston trade Jaylen Brown for Donovan Mitchell?
Right, they want draft picks.
What's the benefit of that? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, and then Chris, I want to hear what your opinion is on this. They got off Jaylen Brown. They didn't want to pay Jaylen Brown the extension into his early 30s at $70 million.
Donovan's the same thing.
Donovan's the exact same situation with less years until the extension kicks in.
So the idea that they could have traded Donovan and got Jaylen Brown, that doesn't compute with me. I think it would have to have been
I agree.
Mobley on that.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think what we got to remember here is also what we have heard and what has been reported and what we know now and what we don't. And when we rip the Cavs for not making these deals, we don't know if Kobe Altman made a call and said, hey, what's it going to take for this trade? And maybe the asking price for the Cavs was something they weren't willing to part with. If it was Mobley, they don't have any draft picks, and it just wasn't going to work out. That doesn't mean they didn't try, and that doesn't mean that they weren't at least thinking about doing this. But at the end of the day, you cannot force a guy to choose you over somebody else. That's not how free agency works.
Yeah.
And LeBron decided that playing in Philadelphia for basketball reasons was better. But I also think there was plenty of reasons off the court why Philadelphia was better for him. And when we talk about legacy and the fact that if he wins another title, he's got 5 rings in 4 different colors and no one else has ever done that, that probably weighs pretty heavy on a guy going into his twilight. I get why you're going to rip the front office because they didn't do what you wanted them to do. Doesn't mean they didn't try, and I know trying doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but I'm with Jason. I do not fault this front office for not ripping apart a roster that just went to the Eastern Conference Finals, even though it has flaws, for a 41, soon-to-be 42-year-old player. As great as he was and as great as he still is, he still doesn't play defense, and I don't know that he moves the needle if you rip apart your roster.
It's a two-track conversation.
Yeah.
You're trying to improve your roster. You're not trying to improve your roster to attract a 41-year-old, because I think those are 2 different conversations.
Right. If you were trading Mobley for Jaylen Brown is not tearing apart your roster.
No, it's trying
But
to
you
improve
might have
your
had
roster.
to more to get Jaylen Brown for Evan Mobley, because if they want draft picks, you're going to have secondary trades to get draft picks. It
But
gets
Mobley's way
complicated.
younger than Paul George.
Yeah, I think if they
I
had
think
got,
straight up
given-
that.
I think, if anything, the Cavs could have recouped draft picks from Boston.
I'm with Jason. Yeah, I think it'd be
as
Brown
much
pick.
as I said yesterday that I'm not going to kill Kobe, and I'm not. I think it's unfair to kill him for this. But if you told me with 100% certainty that I could have Jaylen Brown and LeBron for Mobley right now, essentially,
Yeah.
I'd do it. Everybody
But
would
there's
do
no
it.
way of knowing that at the time.
There's no way knowing it at the time.
And I'm
Yes.
curious on the timing of all this, because so they say in the podcast that LeBron met with the Cavs in early July. Well, the Jaylen Brown trade went down July 6th. So was it before that?
Yeah.
And again, I don't believe for a second that LeBron tells him, "Go get me Jaylen Brown and I'll come back." I don't believe for a
Right.
minute that he would, because that's not
If
how
he had,
that's
I
not
bet you
how
the
he
Cavs would have done it.
LeBron operates in shades
shadows,
of gray,
right?
in shades of gray, where you're not entirely. And I just know
Yeah.
that from going through this in 14
Yeah.
when he did come back, and nobody knew. Nobody knew he was coming. And Griff even joked with me afterwards that Rich joked with him, "How did you not know?
Yeah, right.
Like,
right.
how did you not know?" And Griff's like,
We didn't know.
We didn't know. That's why they hired David Blatt."